Islam, Muslim, yeah, for them, pork is haram. They're not allowed in. Beef in Hinduism, most of the Hinduism is not allowed to eat beef because they regard beef as they believe on cow. So beef is prohibited to be eaten in their tribe. Also, some culture talk about healthy and unhealthy types of food. Yeah, this type of food can be considered healthy for this culture, while another culture we might consider it the same type of food to be unhealthy. Yeah, the factor of economic factors. Economic factors also affect perception of food because normally economic factors are related to income levels. Yeah, income level differ from one culture to another. And also this make it possible or not possible to be able to access certain types of food according to the amount of income the family or household have. Some prefer cheap type of food against premium food, even if they've got high income. They can go to low quality food, things which are unhealthy, which have got high prices, and also the value placed on certain food tend to differ from one culture and another. Some people think that imported food seem to be of high value. So when you are able to purchase those imported foods, you are seen as you're in high level status. So economic factor also tend to affect perception of food and differ from one culture to another. Another factor is religion. Religion tend to influence the acceptance of certain types of food. Religion can have some rules which are related to dietary, what need to be consumed. So it tend to put on dietary rules and also tend to prevent not to consume certain types of food. And also it involves things like fasting practices, not eating for some hours. Yeah, ritual foods also, for example, religion such as Islam is allowed these slaughtering types of these meats which are slaughtered should be slaughtered by a Muslim in order to make it to be halal, that is mean allowed to consume. If not slaughtered by a Muslim following their rules and regulation of their religion, then it will be haram. That is not allowed to be consumed. Others religions such as Sabbath, also they are not allowed to consume things like pork. Yeah, and fasting is normally occurs in different types of religion, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, apart from Islam. Yeah. So it affects because it's avoid not to consume some types of food for several hours. Another factor which affects perception of food is food preparation technique. Different cultures have got different ways of preparing food, use different techniques. So normally they use those type of techniques in prepare the food which they commonly consumed. Yeah, there are different methods which used by different culture, like frying, steaming, boiling, fermenting. Yeah, others use spices, herbs, and oils while cooking in order to increase food flavor and improve its taste and acceptability. So ways of food preparation that might force certain type of culture to go into certain types of food preparation techniques. Another factor is social norms and family practices. Families tend to eat. What family eat normally is affected by their perception of that family to that certain types of food, their normal meal patterns, what types of meal to consume, what portion sizes to consume. what preferred cooking methods to use, what appropriate food for certain types of gender or age. So this is influenced according to social norms and family practices. Another factor which affects perception of food is cultural identity and heritage. We know that food is a symbol of identity. People tend to choose food that connects them. Certain ethnic groups, certain ancestors, their homeland. So it acts as it acts as a symbol of identification. Food is often used as a means of retaining their cultural identity, and people from different cultural backgrounds eat different foods as their main type of food. For example, in Tanzania, Haya tribe and Chaga tend to eat bananas as their food culture identity. And Bena tribe tend to eat kande as their food culture identity. So you can see different types of tribe use food as the symbol identity of their tribe, of their culture. Another factor is geography and environmental. Climate and location tend to influence perception and what type of food is eaten with different culture, because different location or climate can influence availability of crops of animal differently, and different culture use different method of food preservation, use different types of taste preferences to impact the food. Some other people use spices, some other culture in hot climates, although it's hot, while others don't use. Also, media and globalization affect the perception of food, because it affects attitudes of people who are eating the food, and also it tries to promote taste and motivate them to go for specific types of food. For example, trend of fast food, Western dietary, which are advertised in different media such as TV. You see a very big burger, look nice there. So it tends you to change your attitude and motivates you to prefer or eat such type of food, although it might be unhealthy. But it influences you. You can see, you can think about its taste and make you go for it. So media and globalization have got great effect on influencing food perception. Another factor is health beliefs. Different cultures have got different health beliefs when consume different types of food. For example, people in Taiwan or Hong Kong and Malaysia, they tend to assign food two categories, hot or cold. There are some foods are regarded to them as hot, while others are regarded as cold. So this depending on those qualities of food and its physiological effects in the body. Also, food that promotes strength. There are some foods which promote strength, fertility, and healing. Those are healthy issues. Also, food that are taboo for sick or pregnant women in some culture tend to prevent certain types of food not to be consumed by pregnant women, for example, eggs, because they tend to assume that the child which will be born will have boiled. Social eating norms may target or encourage healthy eating or not. Eating behavior is strongly influenced by social context. Culture tends to define health. So does its set of dietary instructions for maintaining health and preventing some curing sickness. Food therapy is an important method in treating in many cultures because food we eat normally tend to build up our body. For example, some culture like people of China tend to use Chinese cuisine for therapy, treatment of different types of diseases. While certain foods may trigger chronic health condition, but other foods normally offers a strong medicinal and protect health of the people. So this is all about the health beliefs and how does it affect the perception of food? Now let's look at another factors, which is personal experience and exposure. And as we know that in a given culture, and in a given community or family or household, the type of food which your family used to cook for you when you are a child, that is the type of food you'll like to eat later, even when you grow up. So your personal experience from when you are young tend to make it continue to eat when you are an adult. So taste preference can depend on childhood experience. As I've said, this make you to repeat again and again consume that types of food because you tend to use to eat. And also sometimes you can experience exposure to new type of food depending on peer influence, type of group of people you are with, or you go out with, you go to the eating place with, you can try to adopt or influence by what they prefer or what they eat. So those are the factors which affect their perception of food for people in different cultures. Is there any question up to here? Is there any question up to here before proceeding with other factors? Is there any question?
Yes, madam.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Maybe I didn't understand on the type of hot and cold. Why do they classify this kind of food as a hot and a cold? So I didn't understand there, madam.
Yeah, I said that people in Taiwan, in Malaysia, they tend to classify, these types of food, in hot or cold type of food. Yeah.
Yes. So why so?
Because of their need. For example, let's say hot food during cold periods, they prefer hot foods. This is their custom, is their culture. Culture determines or try to formulate or try to agree with certain things according to their belief and culture. So hot foods, they regard hot food, those things with spices, hot spiced food. Those are hot types of food. They regard them as hot. And they tend to use those hot types of food during, for example, cold season because it's help physiological to bring heat to the body. Yeah, that is it. That is it. Hot type of food they normally use during, that is hot types of food they tend to use during cold time so that they can get heat in their body. And cold type of food, they regard milk was one type they regard as a cold food, which they normally tend to drink it during cold time, and they drink it. Then they tend to drink it hot. So this is just perception and perceive of certain culture. They tend to classify those type of food depending on their need and their origin. So this is how they perceive. It's how they perceive. Okay, other factors include social status and prestige. In some culture, they perceive certain types of food is eaten by high level or high status people, like imported foods, meat. Poor or low status and cannot eat that type of food. Things like low status, things like local food, traditional staples and grain, they consider it to have low status. Even some table manners also can different cultures and social classes. For example, in Africa, we tend, table manners, we tend to eat food using our fingers. So other developed world, they regard this is low status. That because we are poor, we cannot afford buying these spoons and knives. So they distinguish us, we are low level or we've got low status. While developed world, they tend to use fork Yeah, forks and spoon, they regarded themselves as high social classes. Oh, they've got high social status. So that's how social status and prestige tend to differentiate different cultures, depending also on their table manners. Another factor is symbolic means of food. Yeah, some people, yeah, some culture tend to use food in different celebrations in a community. Yeah, different period of mourning. Yeah, as a symbol of togetherness, which bring them together. Yeah, and also some symbolic sometimes of food. For example, people in Asia countries, they use rice as their symbolism as their symbol of life and prosperity. Yeah, culture also define meals and snack as food differently. Some culture, for example, you can say certain type of food is the main meal, while they regard it as snack. So this is determined differently in each culture. Okay, also, according to food and safety concern, differs from one culture to another. Yeah, cultural group can identify perception of certain food. It's clean. Yeah, others find it's dirty. Other find it is fresh, while other culture find it's not fresh. Yeah, some other find certain types of food is risky, but other it's okay. For example, in Asia, they tend to eat snakes. Yeah, while some other type of people in different culture, yeah, we don't eat snakes. Yeah, for example, in Tanzania, even frogs. In Asia countries, they tend to eat frogs also, and we don't eat frog. So different culture classify different food as food and non-food, edible and inedible, plants and animals. So this is also related to food safety. So we'll say we don't eat snakes because we think it has got poison which might affect our health. But for them, it's okay. Yeah, they eat snake, but they don't, the poison does not affect their health. So food safety concern and perception or choice of food depending on what that culture really, yeah, perceive that food. So that's all the factors. Yeah, that's all the factors and how they affect, yeah, the food perception. So at least you should be able, if you ask a question, to discuss factors which affect perception of food in different culture. You should be able to to discuss at least five or any, at least you should be able to put a discussion, yeah, properly. So, and this will depending on the types of marks which is allocated in that type of questions. If, for example, the question has been allocated 25 marks, so we are expecting at least to discuss at least five factors, and each factor can have can have 5 marks. In total, give in total give 25 marks. So yeah, at least if it's not stated how many factors you should be able to discuss or explain. Okay, now let's go to another term which is used in this course is known as ethnography. Ethnography in anthropology. Ethnography is a qualitative research methods where anthropologists live in certain community for an extended period of time, and they learn or try to understand that culture or that community behaviors, beliefs, customs, social interaction, and daily activity. And then they write about that one specific culture. The purpose of ethnography is, which normally anthropologists do this type of activities, is to understand the cultural pattern, to document the ways of life, to interpret social norms and value of that specific culture in that community, to explain why people behave as they do. Example of ethnographic studies, for example, studying food practices in rural Tanzania. try to look what are the food practices in rural Tanzania. So they can stay there for a set period of time, try to learn behaviors, beliefs, custom, social interaction, daily activity, in order to study all those which are related to food practices and then write down for it. So that is the ethnography in anthropology. There is another also term in anthropology which is known as ethnology. The other one was ethnography. The first one is ethnography. And now this is ethnology. Ethnology in anthropology is the major branch of cultural anthropology that involves the comparative studies of different cultures. This is ethnology. While ethnography focuses on studying on one culture in depth, ethnology analyzes and compares findings from many ethnographic studies to understand broader culture. So this is the difference between ethnology and ethnography. Ethnology is a scientific comparison of culture to identify its similarities, differences, patterns, causes of cultural variation. It helps anthropologists to understand how culture developed, how culture changed, and how culture relates to each other. That's two cultures relate to each other. Ethnology often compares and contrasts various cultures. As I say, comparative studies of different culture. So it compares and contrasts different cultures. Two, while ethnography only look at one culture in deep. Anthropologists who focus on one culture are often called ethnographers. Ethnographers only study on only one culture in depth, while those who focus on several cultures are often called ethnologists. So they use ethnology. So that is the difference between the ethnography and ethnology. Ethnographers start in details on only one culture, while ethnologists, they study different culture in order to be able to compare and to contrast. Them. So this is the difference between the two. Now let's look at the principles of cultural anthropology. Let's look at the principles of cultural anthropology. There are four major principles of cultural anthropology, which are cross-culturalism, which is a perspective of seeing world as an interdependent, interconnected system of global cultures, that every culture in every part of the world, they are interdependent and interconnected. They depend in each other and they are connected to each other. So that's all about cross-culturalism. Another principle is cultural relativism. These consider traits of a given culture are the best comprehended when viewed upon by the context of being part of that society. That is cultural relativism. Another principle is ethnocentrism. This principle views features of culture of another society in terms of its own society. So it doesn't compare, it doesn't make it be low or high. It looks at another culture in terms of its own culture. Another principle is holism. These tend to look at part of cultural system as seeing how they interrelate. Holism principle tend to look at certain parts of cultural system and try to see how they interrelate to each other as a whole. So you've got something which is whole, have got different parts. You try to look at these parts in that the whole thing and how they relate to each other. So those are four principles of cultural anthropology, and not please read and be able to explain every principle in details. Those four cultures. So go and study online, be able to explain if any question came, how those 4 principles of cultural. Yeah, now let's go to determinants of food choice. Let's go to the determinant of food choice. Before going further, I just want you to tell me what is the difference between food, diet, and meal. So, what is food? Any volunteer? What is food? Can you tell me the meaning or definition of food? Hello, what is food?
Food is anything that can be eaten or drink.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Food is anything which can be eaten or drink, which can provide nutrients and energy to the body to function properly. Yeah, for example, of food, rice is a food, milk is a food, meat is a food, and fruit is a food. What is diet? What is the definition of diet? Diet. So what is diet? DIET. What is diet? Another volunteer? Another volunteer, what is diet?
Diet refers to whatever you eat and drink each day.
Yeah, diet is a total pattern of foods a person usually eats over time. It refers to your eating habits. Yeah, it's not a single meal. Yeah, it involves, for examples of diet, like when we say balanced diet, it involves the whole foods, different types of foods which are eaten in that particular time. Vegetarian diet, it involves different types of foods which are in that diet. High protein diet, you want to say, I'm eating high protein diet so that I can lose weight. So they're all components, all types of foods, those are regarded as diet. Although there's no a clear or a very defined boundary or difference between food and diet. Yeah, because diet consists of different types of food. Yeah, basically diet consists different types of foods. Okay, meal. What is a meal? Meal is a specific eating event at one time of the day. For example, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Those are examples of meals. So all three, they are interrelated. Diet choice is a complex. Now let's look at the determinants of food choice. Now let's look at the determinants of food choice. Diet choice is a complex area because there are a number of factors which affect the population and individual food choices. This has been divided into 6. So there are 6 groups or categories or determinants of food choice. The first one is biological determinants, which consist of hunger, appetite, and taste. The second one is economical determinants, which consist of cost and income. The third one is the physical determinants, which consist of access, education, skills, and time. The fourth one is the social determinants, such as class, culture, and social context. Another one is psychological determinants, which include mood, stress, and guilt. And the last but not least is cultural determinants, such as involve attitudes, belief, knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, knowledge about that food. So that is under cultural. Now let's look at one after one determinants. Let's start with biological determinants. Biological determinants, this involved hunger, appetite, and taste. Let's look at hunger and satiety. Human beings needs energy and nutrients in order to survive. That is, can be seen a principle of nutrition. Yeah, we need to get those nutrients from the food we consume so we can be able to survive. And we respond to the feeling and hunger and satiety. Hunger, it's a craving or urgent need for eating certain types of food. Yeah. you feel the certain sensation that you are feeling hungry, so you are in need to eat certain types of. And satiety normally is the absence of hunger after satisfaction. Eating certain type of food, then when you're satisfied, and makes you desire to limit further intake of further eating of that types of food. Different micronutrients have different effects on satiety. For example, the fat is a least satiating, followed by carbohydrate, then protein. So protein have got high satiety value. Low energy density diets have greater satiety than high density. So protein, yeah, have got low energy, so have got greater satiety. That's why people who are want to reduce weight, they tend to go for protein types of food because it has got greater satiety, so they can stay for a longer time without being hungry, compared to things like fat and high sugar foods, which they've got high energy density, but they've got low satiety. So you eat them, after only few time you feel hungry again, so you need to eat again because they've got low satiety. Taste and palatability. Palatability tend to increase as pleasure of an individual experience from eating certain types of food increases. So even food is palatable, it will make you eat more and more of that types of food. So good food increase your ability to consume and eat more of that. So when the food it tastes good, it increases your palatability or appetite level. The taste, smell, texture experience in food affect palatability of certain types of food. For example, sweet foods have got high sensory appeal than sour food, so they've got higher palatability levels. And most of people would like to consume compared to sour food. Another determinant is economical, which is related to cost of income. Normally, depending on amount of income you have, to select certain type of food to be able to eat. So your income ability will make you to determine which type of food can be eaten. Low income people with very low income normally tend to consume unbalanced dietary because they cannot afford high, very expensive if the food is available in the market, normally the price will not be very expensive. It will be accessible because it will be affordable. Education, if you've got education, certain types of food. If it's healthy or unhealthy, you choose accordingly. Time constraints. If you don't have time to cook or prepare food, you'll just go for the types of food which are loaded, takeaway, fast foods, processed food, which are easily already cooked and already prepared so that you can eat. Social determinants, social class, culture, social context. You eat according to your social class. Culture influence also what you eat. Social contents, advertisement, in different sources. Globalization also will affect your food choices. Psychological determinants, mood, stress, guilt also affect your food choice. When you've got stress, feeling emotional, physical tension, and over you cannot cope mentally, you can overeat or you can undereat. Even mood also can affect what you want to eat according to your mood. So all those are psychological, tend to affect your food choice. Cultural determinants, we talk about cultural beliefs, affect your food choice. And cultural knowledge about certain food also affects your food choice. I think this is the end of today's discussion. And here I've got some few questions, high learning question, which might appear, in your exam. I think for the remaining time we have. Please, can you copy these study questions? Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
madam.
Please, can you please write down these study questions? Because the time is not enough. We've got at least 38, at least 5 minutes. Please copy down. Sometimes I might forget. I might forgot to upload this in your Moodle. So it's better you can have some time to write them down. So please write down these 5 questions. I give you 5 minutes to write before the time is up, because we need to close this Moodle session on time so that other lecturers can proceed with other sessions.
Thank you,
Okay,
madam.
copy down these 5 questions. Copy down quickly.